It's Conor here in Montevideo, Uruguay. Got the old city over there, Porfitos Beach behind, hotel over here. And here in Uruguay, again, I've been here every year for the last 15 years to teach in the business school here. This week's video, what I want to talk about is the danger of defending a lead, the danger of entering into playing defense, whether in business, whether in sports, whether in your own life, the danger of feeling like you have a lead and you're just protecting it. And how dangerous a mentality is to get into, whether it's running a football team, playing golf, playing tennis, running a business, or in your own life. So, hey, crossing the road safely, heading into hotel. And I want to talk about this idea of playing defense and how dangerous it is to get into a mentality of defending a lead rather than innovating, progressing, advancing. So let's go into the hotel here. In the hotel room, in the end, downstairs was a bit too noisy for the sound, but playing defense and this idea, I was listening to a podcast, Severin Sorensen was talking to Michelle Barry, and they were talking about in the FedEx Cup golf event this year, Scottie Scheffler had a 10-shot lead over many of the field, a 6-shot lead over Rory McIroy, and on the last day, Rory McIroy won the FedEx Cup. And what they were talking about is how difficult it is when you start with a lead. So that the way that the FedEx Cup was organised this year, depending on how you'd played up till this point, you got an advantage into the tournament. And Scottie Scheffler started day one before hitting a ball already 10 shots ahead. And Rory McIroy started 6 shots behind Scottie Scheffler. So if you think about it, the mentality of Rory McIroy from the very first shot for the 4 days of the Cup was the need to push, to innovate, to try, to test himself if he was going to have any chance of victory. Whereas Scottie Scheffler, no matter how much you try and tell yourself to compete, in some way your mindset is protecting this lead that you have. And in the 4 days of the tournament, Rory for 4 days was in this mentality of attacking, and sometimes the wheels fell off the cart, he made a big mistake, but steadily he was just getting closer and closer to Scheffler. And Scheffler was playing consistently over the few days, but when he needed to switch it on, when he needed to respond to Rory catching up with him, it's very hard to switch from this mentality of defending a lead over to now attacking again, now realizing that you got to really push it if you're going to have a victory. So Rory won. And I was thinking of how many areas in life, this idea that where you start, where you feel that you already have an advantage, instead of pushing to innovate, pushing to keep going, you kind of rest on your laurels, try and protect what you've got. And I see it in business where there's a family business, second generation takes over the business, and to some degree what they're trying to do is protect what they've already got. It's a very difficult thing to take over a business that has been in the family and really decide to stop some of the things that were working in the past, to innovate, to push. And one of the things that they were talking about on the podcast was that in any of these things, whether it's business or sport or your own life, you're not playing against static competition. You're playing against dynamic competition. So Scheffler, even though he knew he was 10 shots ahead at the beginning, he needed to be thinking about what's going to happen over the course of the few days, because the others are going to move over these few days. And in sport, if you've got a lead, the other team is moving, it's playing, it's trying to adjust. And if you're protecting that lead, you're stopping that level of innovation. So this idea that, in our own lives, how are you updating your skills? How are you not just coasting on the skills that have got you where you are today? How are you really thinking about what's the skills that you need to be planting the seeds now, taking the risks now, so that 3, 5, 10 years from now, those strengths are going to come through. And it's very easy, certainly I find I'm coming up to 50 years old. It's very easy to want to coast in on the skills I have, the businesses that are already going. And it's very hard sometimes to take a step back and think, what are the seeds I need to plant? What are the ways I need to stop some of the things that are working now because they don't have a place in the future? And as a sports team, how do you keep on pushing? And I remember when I worked for Accenture, first 10 years of my career, one of the things that Accenture London office valued is they were very expensive and almost deliberately double the cost of any other technology consulting company delivering a similar type of service. And it was a deliberate policy on the part of the leadership of Accenture in London that if we're going to be this expensive, we need to be doing things, projects that no other company has the background, has the skills, has the people to be able to do. If you're cheap, you can win on price. If you're expensive, you're forced to innovate, to develop things, to develop tools to put yourself in a better place. And I remember always thinking, what a valuable lesson that by seeking to remain expensive, it forces you to innovate. It forces you that as soon as any part of your business becomes a commodity and is easily copyable by someone else, you have to let it go, because you can't be expensive selling a commodity, selling something that anyone else could easily copy. And I think in family business, in smaller business, sometimes it's very hard to have this context that a larger business has. A larger business has many more people, many more projects. So in a way, you can be starting new things while keeping things going. In a smaller business, there's not that many people. So it's very hard to have a team dedicated to the future and a team dedicated to today. I remember Xavier Marcet, when he came to speak to the Vistage all-member event, he talked about, you got to lead these three things. Lead three things. One is lead the operations today. And in a way, 70% of your time needs to go into keeping operations today working. 20% is preparing today's operations for tomorrow. And 10% is creating the new business that will be completely different than today in 5-10 years. But you've got to deliberately spend time on it. Deliberately not just rest on the laurels. Deliberately not play defense, protecting the lead that you have now. And this was the thought I was playing with just on the plane as we flew over here, and thinking about this way that you can get into a mindset of playing defense, a mindset of kind of grabbing a hold and trying to protect what you already have. And it's dangerous because when the others catch you, and they will, it's very difficult to switch from that mindset of protecting over to the innovating, trying new things, taking risks that you'll need to then refine a leadership advantage. So there's a reflection for this week. Be careful where you start to protect a lead, where you start to be defensive in your leadership. Leadership in your business, leadership in the community, or leadership in your own life. Make sure you're taking risks to explore how new skills, new capacities, new opportunities, new careers will open up for you. But you've got to put the seeds and take the risk. And it's always going to be easier to do something that you've got 5, 6, 7 years practice doing than to do something that it's maybe the first time. But it's only by today doing some things for the first time that 5 years from now you'll start to have that level of skill and practice that they're starting to flow and to work. So there's the reflection. Have a good one. Don't play defensive, especially as tough times come around. I guess it's so easy to close down and try and defend and hold on, protect what you've got. But the rest of the world is moving forward and advancing. So find a way of always having some degree of innovation, some degree of playing offense. Have a good one. Hope you like this video. Hope you'll like, comment, share, ask questions. As always, your questions, your interaction keeps me inspired to make these videos. Have a good one. All the best from Montevideo, Uruguay.